Sands of time blowing across the beach. Sometimes it's lies they little out of reach.
Welcome, Warriors, to another edition of Outreach Warrior. My name is James Baker. I'm joined by my producer today, Tom. Hi, Tom.
Hey, man.
Today we will be reviewing a movie that we both watched. I would actually call it more of a documentary. It's called Yhomeless, and that is just a Y in front of the homeless. It is from a author and director. His name is Glen Dunzweiler.
Wheeler. We're not really sure, bro. If we said your name wrong, sorry about that.
And we'll be reaching out to Glenn hopefully in the near future. Yeah, sorry if we pronounced your name wrong. The documentary was really, really well put together. It starts off with Glenn facing homelessness, and that's what we like to focus on here, not just when you're homeless, just the whole all-around aspect. In this case, it was a clear and present threat in his life, and he decides to head out around the country and to see other people that are going through homelessness, what types of people are homeless, and that's a big thing that we like to talk about here, is breaking kind of the stereotypical and the stigma of, they're bums and they're just looking to panhandle and why aren't they working,
as well as what help is currently available for people that are homeless or about to be homeless, like you discussed on your last show.
Yes, and I'm glad you said that, because there was a point in the movie, and we'll get into all of it soon, but one thing, since working in this industry, one of the homeless people said on the documentary that there is a lot of help out there, but the normal person who is facing this harsh reality isn't going to know off the top of their heads the resources that are available, and that's something that we want to champion here.
And the other thing, and because like I said, I came close to this a couple of times myself, is there's a certain overwhelming fear that kind of makes it like almost impossible to even go look for it, because you can't face it. It's almost a denial in a way. So that's one thing also that I think, because his situation was the recession hit. He was afraid he was going to lose his home, I believe, and therefore he didn't know what to do. He's like, well, I'm about to be homeless. What the hell am I going to do now? So he decided before he went homeless to go on this journey to find out what people are doing and what to do. So that's what intrigued me about this piece a lot.
And heaven forbid you're faced with that, it's coming. I know it's coming. What should you do? So again, just to touch on that, first thing you should do is call 211, and that is a national helpline. They can give you some information. Also,
sponsored by United Way?
Yes. I was trying to think of that thing. Yep, sponsored by United Way, and I just recently learned that is nationwide. So
awesome.
Regardless of where you're hearing this, we're based in Florida, but it is nationwide. Also, Google nonprofits, shelters. They have the resources that I can't even begin to get into. I'm still learning it now after 3 or 4 months in the industry.
Yeah, I did a search, and there's like four food banks just in my area around here, between both the faith-based, or if you don't want to get drawn into the faith-based situation, there's a couple that are non-secular, I guess is the term.
They're everywhere. I mean, and I don't know if it's just because of recently with COVID and whatnot and the economic strain, but
no, because the recession knocked a lot of people down. I mean, that's what almost knocked me out of my place.
Yeah.
So that, and then of course the situation with my mom and all the money being stolen. But
well, yeah, I was just saying, because like I've just doing what my wife does with the bread from Publix. We've heard of and have gone to and given some bread out to these just small little like churches, but just these small little nonprofits too, just meeting in a parking lot and handing out food.
Oh, okay.
So it's all over the place. So it's there, and like I said, the help is there. Utilize utilize those shelters, those nonprofits, and not saying they're going to save your house, but they will get you set up, hopefully, to a place that you can have a fighting start.
And you know what? I gotta jump in here because I was going to say it in a little bit, but one thing that was brought up in the film and ties in perfectly to this and what I was talking about, the fear and the guilt and all this kind of stuff. What if you're single? He brought up in almost at the head of this film that if you're single and you don't have anywhere to go, you're at the back of the line. The people that are sick, the people that have families, the single mothers, the abused women, those people, and rightfully they should get notice. But a single male that isn't sick, you're back of the line. And then add the other side, which is what got to me, guilt factor. Why me being, raised as man, you gotta figure out how to take care of yourself. What happens when you break? And I don't mean your body, but when your mind breaks from all this, anxiety, stress, depression comes in, and then now a guilt factor that, wow, if I go to the food bank, I'm taking food from a mother that can't take care of her kids. So it's an overwhelming thing, especially for the single homeless, which isn't brought up much.
No, and that was quite an interesting part of the documentary when they did cover that in detail. That it was one of the actual homeless people was saying that he was a single man. He said, "I'm not addicted to drugs and substance abuse.
I don't have cancer."
Yeah, didn't yeah,
He felt it almost sounded like he was bummed that he didn't have a life-threatening disease because then he could get some help.
Yeah, and the way that he in his opinion, saying that he wasn't getting the care that these families were and people with illnesses, substance abuse issues. Yeah, that's a really good point. And I know there are more well, I don't know for numbers wise, but from the work that I do and talking to people and giving them recommendations, there are shelters just for women and children.
There's a cell phone program for, and I remember because I've donated many cell phones to this program for victims of abuse, so they can have a stash phone that their quote unquote loved one doesn't know about. So if they are attacked and he snatches the phone and this is my phone, I pay for the plan, she has that secret phone to go and hit help.
Wow.
So there are many more programs set up for people in more need. And again, it lays a guilt factor on somebody that doesn't feel like, well, I'm not in that much of a need. I can go another day.
And that's such a big part is the part accepting that you need help, and that goes for more than just being homeless. I mean, in general, it's hard. It's for me, it's hard to accept that I need help or along those lines. But the pride thing kicks in, our egos and stuff like that. But it's out there, and I recommend if you need it to go after it. So they talked a lot about, and I want your opinion, Tom, the new homelessness, like the new look of homelessness. It's not the person in the cardboard box on the side of the road, which still exists, obviously. But the new homeless face looks like the people in the hotels that we've worked with.
Van dwelling. That's almost been glorified with YouTube, with young, cute couples changing their van and getting rid of the burdens of life. And I'm on the road now. So it's almost been glorified.
We scripted a little bit of this, but it's mostly off the top of our head. But I'm so glad you brought that up because on TikTok, man, I follow probably like 15 people living in their vans, and you're right. It is almost glorified, these days. And
I hate to keep bringing me up, but during that situation I was talking about where I almost lost everything, I took a job down in South Florida. And a lot of times as a crew person, sometimes they'll put you up. Sometimes they don't have the budget because they're supposed to use local, but they'd rather use you because they like your camera work or whatever. So they're like, hey, if you got a place to stay down in Miami, and I didn't. So I lied. And what I did is basically I parked across the street in the van and then kind of went and had some pizza and stumbled and messed around, and then snuck back, jumped the fence, and crawled into my van when they locked down that parking lot across the street overnight and crashed. 3 days I thought I was going to die. 3 damn days. And now, I mean, we've all being Florida dwellers with hurricanes. I remember when those 4 blew through here.
That was a year before I moved out here.
Oh,
I was like, what am I getting myself
and
into?
it wiped us out for electric and water for like 2 weeks. But we had a home. And, you know, one of the things I'm going through, the guilt situation I'm in, is even under my current situation, if everything continues to go bad, yeah, I'm going to be without lights. I'm going to be without water. But I own my home. And I don't owe anybody that can take my home. So therefore, there's like a homeless without home, while having a home. But it was still less miserable than trying to sleep in my van, because my van's got no AC. And that's one thing he was saying when he was on the road. I think it was going from Memphis to Orlando, that he crashed with somebody in Orlando, and he was just so grateful to have a couch to lay on and AC.
Yeah, I think he said something along the lines of, like, uncomfortable couches are the most comfortable things.
Yeah,
when you're sleeping in the car.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the van thing is big. I see a lot of people taking old buses, and and so the people that are kind of glamorizing that, I think that they have the money to put into it. So
they got a trust fund, or they're a mechanic.
Yeah, because that's the first thing I thought of. I'm like, what if I just take all my money and buy a big van? But I'm like, what happens when that van breaks down?
Or you keep on talking about you like the teeny home.
Oh,
thing.
I love them.
I know you love them, but I don't know if you've ever lived in a teeny home.
No, never actually lived in one. But my vision of tiny home living is to like have 3.
Okay.
Kind of like a compound.
Because when I was a kid,
like for the kids, and then like a functioning like game room, and then like where you actually.
Because when I was a kid, when we moved from Portsmouth Naval Station back to Camp Lejeune, my mom said she basically forced him into buying a house. Well, of course, he bought a house that it took like 6 months to hack down all the vegetation, and the fact it was an abandoned home. Because of a murder. But long story. Yeah. But we lived literally in not a mobile home, but in a camper for 6 months. And I got to say, that was between like 5 and 6, 7 years old. That's how hard that stuck in my brain. I still remember how cool the place was, but how miserable we were. So, that's coming from a 50-year-old man that remembers when he was 7 years old living in a camper. It's not fun living in a teeny home unless you got no needs at all.
That's why I think like at least 3 times.
Yeah, okay, that makes more sense.
So anyway, with a pool house, I got it all planned out.
With an above ground pool that you can bring with you.
I got it all planned out.
Which brings up another point he brought up, and this is something that you said you'd love to build one of these encampment kind of places for. Teeny homes for a bunch of people to come and stay, like they're doing in California and like they're doing in a couple of places. One thing I'd like to do, and I hope it's actually something we could maybe get off the ground, is one thing he brought up is, again, we're talking about being clean, laundry. One thing, back to those hurricanes that came through, I remember in New Orleans, they were, 9th District was wiped out and everything, and one thing that made these people survive was a major detergent company brought in a couple semis with washers and dryers, and then a major wireless carrier, since all the wireless was down, brought in their own tower and had it so you could wash your clothes, and while you're washing your clothes, make a phone call. It would be so cool to set up, even if it was just like a couple washers and dryers in a U-Haul, and every once in a while say, hey,
come wash your clothes.
Come wash your clothes. have a clean pair of drawers.
It's
You know what I mean?
and that's something that I just don't think people think about. Like
No,
so
they think, oh, you need a shower. Okay, well, what about putting on some clean clothes if you've gotten graceful to get that shower?
through my travels of working with people displaced and homeless. Long story short, I don't remember the whole thing, but I met this young kid, and he couldn't have been older than 22, 23, and he was living in a tent with his dad somewhere. It was something fish camp somewhere in Central Florida, outside of Central Florida, and he wound up kind of like in the movie. Some hotel let him stay in, and it wasn't a room because there wasn't a shower or anything. But he got to stay in this room, and he worked there. But he didn't have a shower, he didn't have access to wash his clothes, and he got fired because he was smelly and his clothes were dirty, and just something that it's people don't think of it. That's a great idea, and I mean, and my dream someday is to. I know we talked about Pinel's Hope. I think on the last podcast.
Yeah.
Just even if you could get 10 sheds, put some window ACs, you put some cots in there, just shelter for some of these people on the streets.
But he brought up a good point. Everybody, well, not everybody, but people that care, everybody wants to help the homeless, but nobody wants the homeless to live near them.
I forgot what the abbreviation was. It's not in my backyard.
Not in my backyard. It's everything from a nuclear dump site to, a homeless tent village. Not in my home. Not next to me. You're going to bring down my rate. And that leads me to something that I was going to wait again for this one, but we have something down here that a lot don't have, which is an excessive amount of motels and long-term stay motels, or LTSs. And while we would love, like we brought up the fact the Star was a horrible abuse of the people that were staying there and a way to take in money, not do anything. What if, instead of finding that land you're talking about and building those places, what if somehow we could find a couple of these places that people are already staying to partner with, or to have them, like you mentioned it earlier, and even one of the people that you had worked with Starfish had mentioned, adopt a motel.
That is the first. I like to look at one of my theories in life is realistic goals and in the near future, accomplishable goals, and that is what I would like. What we want to work on here at Starfish and Outreach Warrior is to do and adopt a hotel program where you give a little bit a month, and then we pick a day out of the month to go and offer hot food, offer canned goods,
Cookout weekend.
Maybe do a cookout, exactly. Hygiene thing, and the money would go to buying those supplies.
And that's where a big corporate entity could get involved, whereas they wouldn't have, like a Pfizer, or like you see the Adopt a Road campaign. The Boy Scouts adopt a mile of road, and then they pay for that section to be cleaned and taken care of.
And I know I won't say any names or anything, but I mentioned a big hotel company.
Mm-hmm.
I personally think it's a great idea that a big hotel company, which could help out a small motel that is no competition to them whatsoever, but saying, hey, we care about our community, trying to give, and kind of going back on what you're saying, your point was, let's try to give these people a little bit better living situations, instead of building those tiny homes and stuff I still want to do. But
they need to move on at one point. You don't want to stay in the motel.
Yeah, it's a transitional.
But it becomes a transitional environment,
but more livable. And I've seen them, and for the Christmas party, there was 7 people living in one room. It was mother and father and 5. I don't want to say adults, but they were big. I mean, they were teenagers. They were big kids, and they had a dog too. And I was just like, it's just. I couldn't even picture it. I didn't want to see I couldn't. I thought 4 was bad. So also, I know we talked a little bit before
We're
this.
jumping all over the
Yeah,
place,
no, it's
but
cool.
hey,
No,
this is just a
it's nice. It's
free-for-all.
nice to talk to somebody while doing this. That's why I like the interviews so much. And we have another interview coming up in another episode. I did want to touch upon about the stereotype though, about how they're just panhandlers and they could be working. And there in the documentary, there was one person who said that, who straight up said, you can make this your living. And I thought his sign was quite cute. It said, "I need a cold beer and big butts."
But the other guy brought up a good point. It's almost the exact same thing. And any of y'all that want to be a YouTube star will understand this one. Only a few are good at that.
Yeah.
Only a few are going to make that living off of holding up that sign.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And those are the ones that get noticed. The ones that make it.
And I've seen anywhere from, I met this family out there at a Publix once. He was playing the accordion, and I'm sure that, and he had his wife and little babies there. I gave him my business card. But there's a gimmick too. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that's
like you two.
like the guy playing the guitar on the side of the road.
I'm sure he makes decent tips.
Or do you? Because again, when I was a kid, there was a rumor. There was this old man that used to go around and collect cans, and he'd push this cart with stacks, and sometimes you'd see this thing stacked up way over his head, and all these kids had this rumor that he was rich and he was living in the woods and he had this money stashed away. And the horrible thing about it is, one of these kids went out and found him and beat him up, and he didn't have anything. He had like $20. That was it. And that's how we found out. It was because this kid came back complaining, and he must have had it stashed somewhere else. So luckily he got caught for that. But that's the rumor tends to be not quite as true as the reality of life.
And that's a good segue into what the next thing I wanted to bring up. When Glenn was at a tent city, kind of, he talked to a few people, and some of the women said that they've been sexually abused and there's fights. And one of the people living in the tent city said that there were different kind of like factions almost, and they said his side was there was no room for fighting, argue, like they all. I don't know if it's respectable, but they were the ones like the law-abiding ones. But then there were another section down a little ways where there was a drug side and there was a lot of stealing.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
And so, but yeah, there's a lot of abuse, and it also, and this is a pretty big statement, but I'm pretty sure it's true. I mean, depression is a huge. If you're out on the street, and this is what they talk about, this cycle that they get into. You're out on the street, you're going to be depressed, and it's just, I think it's just an open door for substance abuse and drugs, and they talk about that a little bit.
Or even just curling up in a ball because you don't know what to do.
You don't know what to do, and drugs can help that.
Well, yeah,
take it, absolutely. It's 100%. And one of the gentlemen that was on, one of the homeless gentlemen, he was on quite a bit. The guy you're talking about, the one saying, "I don't have cancer," I'm assuming
yeah.
He was on quite a bit, and he was again saying he doesn't have any substance abuse problems, and but he talked about the cycle. He's like, "I don't have any money. It'll cost me this much to get to I think this was in San Francisco, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was out west.
And talking about he doesn't have enough money to get to the other side of town, and he literally can't go anywhere because this is where he. So.
Or like the dude in Orlando, I think it was in Orlando, that brought up the very point you brought up a couple shows back, which he didn't have a tent city. He was in a motel, but by the time he pays for the motel, he then doesn't have anything to save, get better, buy that extra thing he needs to move on from his situation. Because he's got just enough to pay that motel.
And I learned that right away when I started doing the work with the hotels, with the families I met. They lost their job. We'll Just use this as an example. Single mom, 3 kids. Mom loses her job. She has just enough money to get them into a hotel so they're not on the street. Mom gets another job. Okay, she's making a little bit of money. It's weekly, so figure $300 a week, right? So you put that together, that's almost like a more that's rent. That's could be a mortgage. She's making just the amount of money to pay for the hotel and a little bit for food. There is no extra money to put down the first and last month's rent.
First month, yeah. Same thing. I mean, hell, electric, all of them.
Utilities, all that.
They all want a deposit.
So they're stuck in this hotel. And one of the families I first started working with, the reasons I got involved in it was dad's not working. Grandma gets Social Security. Dad has the 2 kids. So it's the 2 kids, dad, grandma. And they live off the Social Security. And that goes and pays
the bills.
Pays the bills.
Yeah. Well, now, and we have to bring up the harsh reality. And this is my friend Frank brought up. That's all well and fine. But there are a lot of folks that are homeless by choice.
Mm-hmm.
They love the freedom. They don't want to live like that, but they also don't want to be tied down. They have that free spirit. I hear this one show on California Channel all the time, and that's one problem they have, and that's one problem we have here. We have an environment that you can live outside year-round, so it tends to draw those freedom seekers that don't mind living with nothing. Those children of the 60s,
the van people.
Yeah, the van people that are happy with that. But what I brought up to him, and that's why also I love your starfish story. Not everyone's like that. And actually, most of the motel folks, the displaced, aren't that, almost maybe 90%, let's get ridiculous and say, that aren't going to achieve, don't want to quit getting high, don't want to give up that freedom and go, I got to have a shave and a job. Oh my God. But there are those few. And if we can help those few, that's what this show is for.
Absolutely. And there is that demographic.
I just want everybody to know we don't think we can save the world. We don't think we can save everybody. But if we could save 1, 2,
and that's how my whole the whole. I mean, that's how realistically this all started, was with this one little boy that I wanted to help, and then I saw all the people in the motel. You can't save them all. And what you brought up is it's a huge point. There are some people that don't want the help.
There's some people going to say, "Hey, great sandwich, thanks. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Later."
And one of those families, I won't even bring anything about, but there was another family with the Social Security thing. Hey, they get by off it. That's what they're doing with their life, But there are also the ones that we want to help, saying that this is not the situation I want to be in. I'm trying to get out, and that's the whole starfish mentality: is one person at a time, help them get on their feet.
They want that deposit.
Yeah, and there's help out there, and I'm learning all about a program right now through my work for younger people, getting them into places too, and helping with for a few months rent. They have to have a job. They have to, show that they want it.
My friend Frank brought up one, and we got to look into it. I wasn't going to bring it up, but might as well because it's a perfect transition too. Orange County, Florida, is thinking about or working on some kind of thing like I had pitched to you about, using the skills of displaced and homeless to kind of create their own version of a job service. And that's for the Orange County homeless. And I think that program's just getting started, and I don't know anything about it, but it's definitely something we should look into. Because there are a lot of skilled people. It's just, again, they don't have the clean clothes. They don't have the ability to get that everyday shave, shower. And maybe we need to create a homeless Uber so they can get there.
They can get to their jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a great idea. Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit before the show.
Because our bus system sucks around here. Sorry, Orlando. But
I don't know much about
bus sucks.
a lot of the young people that I work with, they all take the bus, and somebody was
They don't take it far.
he was asking me. One of the guys was asking these questions about, oh, how do I get to this? And I'm like, buddy, I was like, I have no idea. It took him an hour to go like 5 miles. I'm like, dude, you should have walked. I was like an hour and 2 bus changes. I was like, man, when I lived in Boston, I hopped right on the green line or the blue line, and boom, 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 boom. And it was super easy to get around.
Yeah, I was up there doing the X Games, and we had to utilize that because the way they had things shut down. Yeah, you just jump on the train, damn, boom, there you are. So, any other?
No, I would say if you have Amazon Prime, definitely check out the letter Y, Homeless, ?
He also has a book, Things I Learned from the Homeless, if you're more of a reader. That's on everything from Audible. I think it's audiobook, and it's also paperback.
All right, I might have to pick that up. Looks good. Again, it was a very good documentary. Something that we would like to pursue at some point in this career. Tom is an amazing filmographer, Mr. Producer over here. I'd love to get out at some point and then show the world what type of situation.
Maybe we can do a mini version of that and do a Florida.
In Florida, yeah,
run around
down at the Coalition. That's where one of the places that's called the Coalition of the Homeless here, right downtown Orlando, was actually he went there on the documentary.
Yeah, they seem really organized.
Yeah, they do. That's one of the places at my employment, because where I work, it's just for younger people, for younger use. We recommend a lot of people. That's the first place we recommend them to. Yeah, so future things, hopefully we can get out there, do some filming. I'd like to move on soon with interviews from people out on the streets.
No, you got a couple coming up.
Yeah, well, we have some interviews. Producer Tom here has got to work on. I have some really cool case managers, people I work with that are doing amazing things. Like they're so, I don't want to say unappreciative, but the stuff that they do is mind blowing, and they are warriors.
Well, it's a very unappreciated field.
Yeah.
I mean,
I thought teaching was unappreciated.
You're complained at when you don't do anything, and when you do something, you're stealing tax money. So, you know.
So, but they're great people, and the one thing I've learned just starting being around this industry and stuff like that, the people that like you and myself and the people that I work with, that they just have the biggest hearts, and I don't have a lot, we were just regular people, but we want to help other people, and these people that I work with are the same way, and they're just my point is they're very loving and they have great hearts. Well, thank you so much, Tom. Thank you for sitting in with me on this one, and
thanks for having me on, man.
It's a lot better talking to somebody. And we'd like to hear your story. If you know someone who's homeless, or you've experienced homelessness,
or if you're doing anything to help the homeless, we'd love to hear your story as well.
Absolutely. Please reach out to us. outreachwarrior@gmail.com. Thank you for checking out the podcast. Please rate, share, tell somebody you know. Hopefully we can grow this. Down the line, I would like to work more on the adopting a hotel motel. Maybe we can do a GoFundMe.
Let's get that washer dryer truck going. I like that idea.
I really like the wash and dry thing. That is huge. And like I said, and like we were talking before, I was saying to Tom, that's just something people wouldn't think off the top of their heads. You know what I mean? Like a way to help. Like that's such a good idea. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us on this episode, and we will see you next week.
Have a great day and a better tomorrow.
Living here for centuries, yet I feel so lost. Men will do just what they please, never count the cost.